Hello Year 7s, welcome back to the second worksheet for the Dreamcatcher task. There's 2 pages on this worksheet, as you can see in front of you. Let's focus on the first page. At the very top we have the goal. Now the goal is that you collect materials and design 2 options for the Dreamcatcher. Underneath that's the prior knowledge question, and the question is, what part of the client brief tells you the features that must be included in a finished product? So you answer that in the green box, click on the inside the green box and type your answer in there. Have a think about that one, and then once you're finished, move on to the next part of this worksheet. Okay, if we look down below, I've put in the client brief again, and have a look at the client brief. In the client brief it says that your friend wants your design to incorporate found objects, and they can be either natural or they can be man-made. Now found objects are simply that, they're found objects around the house. So if we look at the worksheet again, there's a column where you need to list 5 things, and it says, what found objects have you collected to use in your Dreamcatcher, and list them below. So you list them in here. Okay, and their found objects could be, for example, could be a coat hanger. It's amazing how you can change a coat hanger into different shapes, and that could actually form the basis of your Dreamcatcher, that round or square or triangle part at the top. You might use some wool that's hanging around the house, or some string. There might be some gems that are just floating around that you might want to use. Twigs from the garden. You might want to use some flowers from the garden. Before you cut anything or use anything, make sure you ask permission from your parents. Don't just go and use it, because they may have something else they need to use these things for. So just pass it by your family first. You might want to cut some flowers, some fresh flowers. Again, ask mum or dad. Grasses, you can always weave some grasses, some long grasses, and incorporate them into your Dreamcatcher. Lego blocks, ask your little brother or sister if it's their Lego blocks, don't just go and help yourself. Paper plates, now these can form the basis of your Dreamcatcher if you don't have coat hangers or anything round. And if we look again back at the worksheet, there's a second column. It says, what equipment will you use to make your Dreamcatcher? And list below. At least 5 things list, and yet have a think about it. Have a think what you can use. Now, equipment in sewing in the textiles classroom would include the sewing machine, but of course you don't have access to those for this task, so have a think of other things. You might have a needle and thread. That's equipment. Scissors, you might need to cut things. That's equipment. You might need to glue some things together. You certainly call that equipment. These are what do they call these? Plastic ties. Anyway, you could use those as well. And wire, that could be equipment to hold things together on your Dreamcatcher. A ruler is definitely equipment. You might need to handle things that are very small, so maybe some tweezers, or a peg to hold things in place. Maybe a bullnose peg to hold things in place. And if you're cutting something on the table, I hope you're using one of these. This is equipment as well. It keeps your table nice and scratch free. You might be cutting things in the garden. These are called secateurs, and mum and dad might have a pair of those. Be very careful if you use them, and ask your parents if you can use them. And don't forget to ask your parents if you can cut the certain flowers and things that you need. Okay, so once you fill in this first page, you'll finish the first page, of course, but let's have a look at the rubric. You need to complete the APK question correctly. Now, full sentence structure, in other words, full stops, capital letters, and proper spelling is going to get you a full 1 out of 1 mark. Now, the found objects, there's 5 to list, so of course 1 mark for each object that you find or that you use as a found object that you're going to incorporate into your Dreamcatcher. So there's a possibility of 5 marks. And then the equipment. If you list 5 pieces of equipment that you could use, there's another 1 mark for each listing. So there's 5 possible marks, a total of 12 marks altogether. They do add up. Pause this video, complete the first page, and then once you've completed that, move on to the next page. Okay, so here's the second page of this worksheet. And at the top here it tells us to complete 2 designs for your Dreamcatcher. Now you need to take into consideration the constraints and considerations when designing your Dreamcatcher, and you'll find those in the client brief. There's the client brief there. Now if we circle all the constraints for you, there we go, they're the constraints. Must be 21 to 30 centimetres in size. A feature must be included that allows it to hang. Found objects must be included, and it needs to have a theme, so it must have a theme. So they're certainly constraints. So if you got those right in the last worksheet, well, you're doing good. And there's considerations as well. Now the considerations, you can choose what type of hanging device. The types of found objects are up to you, as long as they're found objects. You can choose the colour, the shape, the design of that centre part, and the actual theme you can select. There's lots of things that you can select, but there are constraints. Okay. Now if we continue to read the worksheet, it says draw your designs on a piece of paper using grey lead and colour pencils. Okay, so what do we do? What do we design? And what do we do? Well, it's time for you to be creative. Get a pencil, a grey lead pencil. Always use grey lead pencils when you're designing or drawing. Use colour pencils to colour it in. And the reason why we use grey lead pencils is because things can rub out more easily if you make mistakes. And then you draw your design. Okay, but then how do we get our design on paper into the worksheet? Well, this is what you do. First of all, you've got to save your design. Well, first of all, you've got to finish it actually. Oh, we've got a hook. So I've just put a hook on. And we've got to also add annotations. Now there's something missing with these annotations. What do you think it is? Arrows, definitely. We can't have annotations without arrows, because these arrows point to the things that the annotations are talking about. So once finished, we take a picture, or you can scan your drawing, and then you put it and you save it to your laptop. So you open up your worksheet, and that's the page in our worksheet where we need to put our design option. You click on that insert, you double click on it so it highlights it just like you see it there, and you go up top here and you push the insert option. Different options will drop down then, and then you choose the picture. You click on that picture option and it will go straight to your files. Now your drawing that you copied and photographed and saved to your laptop, it might be in your pictures file. I usually put mine in my desktop file, so I'll go find my drawing. Yep, there it is. Now there's my drawing there. I click on that and then go down the bottom of the screen and I click the insert, and hey presto, it is inserted into your worksheet. So really simple. Do that for both, and rewind this and have another look if you're not sure, or if you've missed a step. Okay, don't be afraid to go back over the video at any time. Okay, so the last thing we need to do, well, first of all, we need to put our images. There's a couple that I've thrown together, and it's got the annotations, it's including the hooks. One's a circular one, one's a triangular one. So I don't think you need to be limited to circles, okay? Maybe a triangle suits your theme better. And then finally, we have the goal review. This is the last thing. Okay, and the goal review, if we have a look at it closer, which design option did you choose? There's 2 parts to this question. And then I want you to explain how your design meets the client brief. Okay, which is all that writing in that circle we saw before. How does your design meet the client brief? So that's going to be probably 1 or 2 sentences worth of answer. And don't forget to click on the green box to type your answer in. Okay, so you've completed the worksheet. However, let's have a look at the rubric to see how you can achieve top marks. So here is the rubric for the first design. If you see up top, image of design is included on worksheet. And to get the high marks, it needs to be high resolution. In other words, when I look at your picture, it doesn't break up and pixelate. Okay, now the actual design option, 5 marks if your design is extremely well drawn and includes all considerations and constraints and has a definite theme. Now grey lead and colour pencils need to have been used, and they need to have been used extremely well, and that will give you the 5 marks. And then also I'm giving you marks for annotations, because annotations are very, very important. 3 annotations were included, and each annotation is a possible 3 marks, and each annotation thoroughly explains the selective features. Have a look, go back over this video and have a look at my annotations I've included. Zoom in or just pause at when the annotations pop up, and you'll understand what the annotations are meant to look like and what they're meant to actually do. Okay, good, and that will give you 1 out of 1 marks. There's 9 marks for the first design. There's 9 marks for the second design, which is exactly the same, what you need to achieve. And then there's the goal review. So again, with the goal review, a possible full sentence, using full sentence structure, and you've answered the question, and it's 1 out of 1 marks. Now all these marks do add up. You might think, oh, it's only 1 mark, but then if you keep doing that to all the little 1 mark things, there's going to be a lot of 1 marks that add up to a lot of marks. Okay, so there's a spinning disc. Pause, complete this page, page 2, and hey presto, you'll have finished the second worksheet. Well done.